Angels we have heard on high. When what we heard was the fire engine pulling up on the lawn of the church with the siren blaring and the red lights flashing, the firemen hurried in and made us all go outside. They dragged a big hose in the front door and went looking for a fire to put out. The street was full of baby angels crying and the shepherds climbing all over the fire truck and firemen, and all the ladies on the potluck committee and the neighbors who came to see what was going on, and Reverend Hopkins, who ran over from the parsonage in his pajamas and his woolly bathrobe. Nobody knew what had happened, including the herdsmans, but I guess they figured that whatever it was, they'd done it, so they left. Life lessons they've learned. "Why in the world did you call the fire department?" Mother asked Mrs. McCarthy when she finally heard the whole story. "Because the ladies' room was full of thick smoke." It couldn't have been," Mother said. "You just got excited. Didn't you know it was cigar smoke?" Mrs. McCarthy stared at her. "No, I didn't. I don't expect to find cigar smoke in the ladies' room at the church." And she whirled around and she marched back to that kitchen. By that time, the kitchen was fuller of smoke than the ladies' room, because while everybody was out milling around in the street, all the applesauce cakes burned up. Of course, the ladies on the potluck committee were mad about that, and Mrs. McCarthy was mad, and Alice said her mother would be good and mad when she heard about it. Most of the baby angels' mothers were mad because they couldn't find out what had happened, and somebody said Mrs. Hopkins was mad because Reverend Hopkins was running around the streets in his pajamas. Turned out to be one great big sinful thing Alice kept hoping for. Mrs. Wendelken read Alice's notes, got on the phone that very night and called up everybody she could think of in the Ladies' Aid and the Women's Society. And she called most of the Flower Committee and all the Sunday school teachers and Reverend Hopkins. Reverend Hopkins came to see Mother. "I can't make heads nor tails of it," he said. "Some people say they set fire to the ladies' room. Some people say they set fire to the kitchen. One lady told me Imogene threw a flower pot at Ralph. Mrs. Wendelken says all they do is talk about sex and underwear." That was Hobie Carmichael, Mother said, talking about underwear. And they didn't set fire to anything. The only fire was in the kitchen where the potluck committee set their applesauce cake burn up. Well, Reverend Hopkins looked unhappy. "The whole church is in an uproar. Do you think we should call off the pageant?" "Certainly not," Mother said. By that time, she was mad too. "Why, it's going to be the best Christmas pageant we've ever had." Of all the lies she had told so far, that was the biggest. But you had to admire her. It was like General Custer saying, "Bring on the Indians." "Maybe so," Reverend Hopkins said. "I'm just afraid that no one will come to see it." Foreshadowing. He was wrong. Everybody came to see what the Herdmans would do. Chapter 7. On the night of the pageant, we didn't have any supper because Mother forgot to fix it. My father said that was all right. Between Mrs. Armstrong's phone calls and the pageant rehearsals, he didn't expect supper anymore. "When it's all over," he said, "we'll go someplace and have hamburgers." But Mother said when it was all over, she might just want to go someplace and hide. "We've never once gone through the whole thing," she said. "I don't know what's going to happen. It may be the first Christmas pageant in history, where Joseph and the wise men get in a fight and Mary runs away with the baby." She might be right, I thought. I wondered what all of us in the angel choir ought to do in case that happened. It would be dumb for us just to stand there singing about the Holy Infant if Mary's just run off with him. But nothing seemed very different at first. There was the usual big mess all over the place. Baby angels getting poked in the eye by other baby angels' wings. Grumpy shepherds stumbling over their bathrobes. The spotlight swooped back and forth and up and down till it made you sick to your stomach to look at it. And as usual, whoever was playing the piano pitched "Away in the Manger" so high we couldn't hardly hear it, let alone sing it. My father says "Away in the Manger" always starts out sounding like a closet full of mice. But everything settled down, and at 7:30, the pageant began. While we sang Away in the Manger, the ushers lit candles all around the church, and the spotlight came on to be the star, so you really had to know the words Away to a Manger, because you couldn't see anything, not even Alice Wilkins' Vaseline eyelids. After we sang 2 verses of O Little Town of Bethlehem, and then we were supposed to hum some more O Little Town of Bethlehem while Mary and Joseph came in from the side door. Only they didn't come right away. So we hummed and hummed and hummed, which is boring and also very hard. Before Long doesn't sound like any song at all, more like an old refrigerator. I knew something like this would happen. Alice Wilkinson whispered to me. They didn't come at all. We won't have any Mary and Joseph, and now what are we supposed to do? I guess we would have to go on humming till we all turned blue. But we didn't have to. Ralph and Imogene were there all right, only for once they didn't come through the door pushing each other out of the way. They just stood there for a minute as if they weren't sure they were in the right place because of the candles. I guess in the church being full of people. They looked like the people you see on the 6 o'clock news. Refugees sent to wait in some strange, ugly place with all their boxes and sacks around them. It suddenly occurred to me that this was just the way it must have been for the real Holy Family. Stuck away in a barn by people didn't much care what happened to them. They couldn't have been very neat and tidy either, but more like this Mary and Joseph. Imogene's veil was cockeyed as usual. Ralph's hair stuck out all around his ears. Imogene had the baby doll, but she wasn't carrying it the way she's supposed to. Cradled it in her arms, she had it slung up over her shoulder. And before she put it in the manger, she thumped it twice on the back. What's she doing? Burping the baby. I heard Alice gasp and she poked me. I don't think it's very nice to burp the baby Jesus, she whispered, as if he had colic. Then she poked me again. Do you suppose he could have had colic? I said, I don't know why not. And I didn't. He could have had colic or been fussy or hungry like any other baby. After all, that was the whole point of Jesus. He didn't come down on a cloud like something out of Amazon comics, but that he was born and lived, a real person. Right away we had to sing While Shepherds Watched Their Flocks by Night. We had to sing very loud because there were more shepherds than there were anything else. And they made so much noise, banging their crooks around like a lot of hockey sticks. Next came Gladys from behind the angel choir, pushing people out of the way, stepping on everybody's feet. Since Gladys was the only one in the pageant who had anything to say, she made the most of it. Hey, unto you a child is born! She hollered as if it was for sure the best news in the world. And all the shepherds trembled and were sore afraid of Gladys. Mainly, but it looked good anyway. Then came 3 carols about angels. It took that long to get the angels in because they were all primary kids and they got nervous and cried and forgot where they were supposed to go and bent their wings on the doors. Well, things like that. We got a little rest then while the boys sang, We 3 Kings of Orient are. And everybody in the audience shifted around to watch the wise men march up the aisle. What have they got? Alice whispered. I don't know, but whatever it was heavy. Leroy almost dropped it. He didn't have his frankincense jar either, and Claude and Ollie didn't have anything, although they were supposed to bring the gold and the myrrh. I knew this would happen, Alice said for the second time. I bet it's something awful. Like what? Like a burnt offering. You know the Herdmans. Well, they did burn things, but they hadn't burnt this. It was a ham. And right away I knew where it came from. My father was on the church charitable works committee. They gave away food baskets at Christmas. This was the herdsman's food basket ham. It still had the ribbon around it saying Merry Christmas. I'll bet they stole that, Mary Alice said. They did not. It came from their basket. And if they want to give away their own ham, I guess they can do it. But even if the herdmans didn't like ham, that was Alice's next idea, they had never before in their lives given anything away except lumps on the head. So you had to be impressed. Leroy dropped the ham in front of the manger. It looked funny to see a ham there instead of fancy bath salts that we always use for myrrh and frankincense. And then they went and sat down in the only space that was left. While we sang "What Child Is This?", the wise men were supposed to confer among themselves, then leave by a different door, so everybody would understand that they were going home another way. Ask your mother and dad to read to you the Christmas story, and you'll understand why the wise men, whose hearts were touched by baby Jesus, went home a different way. I love you. I read too long, but that's all right. I get caught up in the story and in the season. Be solid, be strong, be of good cheer. Bye.